So Mark, can you tell me what's happening in the real estate market right now? Kind of confused about what one should do if they're looking to buy or sell their home this year. So what's happening right now?
Well, the market right now is a little bit slow. As we have approached into the fall market, which is pretty typical in Columbus, Ohio. As we get into our fall market, it's going to be a lot less activity than a spring market. But this year, the market is really beginning to even out and slow down. Now, there are a couple of reasons why we think that's happening. One, obviously, uh, the economy. The economy, as much as the powers that be say that it is, and we're in good shape in the market, the stock market is high. It really comes down to how comfortable buyers or prospective buyers are with their situation and specifically their job situation. It all comes down to what I like to say is consumer confidence. Am I going to have a job next year? Am I comfortable in having with my job? So that we've seen that be affected a little bit to the political situation. With the election that's gone and slowed down the market. I think now that we're through that, it'll be interesting to see what happens. But that has certainly caused some indecision in the market. And then lastly are the interest rates. The interest rates spiked back up again. They're back up above 7%, which historically aren't really, really high, but certainly they're higher than they've been the last 4 or 5 years.
All right, so that's some interesting information. What are we specifically seeing in the market? Like, are prices up? Is inventory up or down? And what does all that mean for me if I'm looking to buy or sell?
We're in a very interesting time because prices are still high. I mean, prices are at a all-time high, and the inventory is getting better. There are definitely more houses coming on the market as the market has slowed down, but it's still at a pretty low month supply of inventory. So the reason why is because the interest rates were so low for so long that you have a lot of people who are in these 2.5% and 3.5% mortgages who are reluctant to move. I have several clients who would love to move, would absolutely love to move, but they just can't give up that low mortgage. And what we're seeing is really a bottleneck of inventory because of that. Now, like I said, it is getting better, but that whole group of people who would love to move are just not able to.
I see. So how does the inventory affect me? If I'm a seller or I'm a buyer, why should I care about the inventory? What does that mean for me?
Well, when there's more inventory on the market, certainly there are more choices as a buyer. As a seller, if there's more inventory on the market, there's more competition. So if you're a buyer and you're out looking on the market, and the days on the market have gone up a little bit. We're up now to the high 20s in terms of the number of days on the market, which again is higher than it has been the past couple of years, but historically it's still pretty low. I mean, it's still under 30 days. We as real estate agents used to applaud ourselves if a house sold in under 30 days. But so that days on the market is increasing, which tells us that there is more inventory coming on the market. So right now, we're looking right at about 2 months of inventory. And what that speaks to is the absorption rate. So for the number of buyers in a market and the amount of inventory on the market, we use that criteria to figure out what the absorption rate is. And the absorption rate says that if every home on the market sold, how many months would it take for them all to sell? So right now we're right about at 2 months. So statistically, in a good average market, that number should be more in the 5 to 6 range when you've got an equal number of buyers and sellers. So we're still technically in a seller's market, but again, it's trending the other direction.
I see. So if I'm a buyer and I'm looking to buy a home, how is this whole commission change going to affect me?
It's definitely gonna affect you, Devin. So a quick history. So the National Association of Realtors was sued in a class action lawsuit last year, which they lost. And when that happened, there was a decoupling of the commissions. So historically, when a house was listed, the seller would pay a certain percentage, and then a certain percentage of that would be co-opted out to a buyer's agent. So when this lawsuit happened, and now in the state of Ohio, this has become a state law, the buyer is now responsible to pay their agent for their services. And that's something that can have to be negotiated up front with an agent if you're looking at buying a house. And again, the way the law in the state of Ohio is written is that as a buyer's agent, I can't go show a buyer a house without some sort of written agreement. So if you're thinking about buying a house or starting that process, it's going to be very important that you have a conversation with an agent or agents that you're planning on using, just so you can understand how they're going to be compensated. Because again, the way the law is written now is that you, the buyer, are going to have to compensate your agent.
I see. Now, we got any read on the market yet about how buyers are reacting to this? Have we seen anything yet, or is it still something that's a bit to be determined?
Well, it's a little bit to be determined, but what we have seen so far, at least personally, is that many of the sellers are still offering compensation to buyers agents. So the buyers aren't having to come out of pocket to pay their own agent. Now, again, this is still pretty new, so uh, we're still kind of evaluating how this is all going to shake out. But so far, it's been pretty much business as usual, where the seller is offering some, if not all, compensation to the to a buyer, potential buyer's agent.
I see. So, speaking of selling homes in Columbus, how does this whole commission change affect sellers? Like, if I'm selling a home, what's going to look different for me? Am I going to be getting less money for my home, more money for my home? Is it going to be about the same for me, or what's different?
Well, the market obviously is ultimately is going to determine what the home sells for. The commissions don't necessarily have that much effect on it, in my opinion. the the way the commission structure works now is that you as the seller are only responsible for paying your agent their agreed upon compensation. Now you do have the option to potentially offer a buyer's agent some type of compensation or some sort of buyer's concession to the buyer, but again, it would be completely up to you.
All right, so the market overall is growing a lot in Columbus, but I know some of the suburbs and some parts of Columbus are growing faster than others. Can you tell me anything about that? Like, what and where are we seeing the most growth and the most activity in terms of like sale price?
So most of the growth is happening over on the east side, and that's happening because what's going on with Intel. Now, Intel was supposed to start hiring and be done with their first manufacturing plant in 25, and that's been pushed back. I mean, go figure that there's been a delay in something that's being built. But so now I think they're forecasting for 27 to start hiring. But what we have seen is a tremendous amount of growth out in Johnstown area, Granville, Newark, just the entire east side of central Ohio. And if you look at the growth numbers, I mean, we're talking double digit growth numbers. I mean, Johnstown 28% last year, Granville 23%, Newark 21%. Again, and that's all because of the Intel effect.
So if I'm looking to buy in one of those areas or sell in one of those areas, what are some things I might want to think about if I'm looking to buy maybe in Johnstown or buy or sell in Granville or Newark? What are some things that buyers or sellers might want to keep in mind?
Well, it kind of really depends on where you're at in your journey. If you're interested in being in one of the better school districts, Granville is going to be your best option. Granville actually has the best school district in Central Ohio and has for years. But you're going to pay to live in that community. It's one of the one that's is really progressing quickly would be the Johnstown area. Now, the Johnstown is still very much a rural community, but that is going to change dramatically here in the next 3 to 5 years as the growth continues to push out that direction. And the school district is getting much, much better.
Yeah, I think I saw that there were only a few five-star, or yeah, only a few five-star school districts, but Johnstown is one of those few four-star school districts. So it's still a pretty good school district, especially in terms of like, I think I saw the price compared to the school district. It's actually pretty good in Johnstown, right?
Absolutely. It's a good value play right now compared to the average sale price compared to the school grade.
So some parts of Columbus are seeing a lot more activity in terms of closed sales. So a lot of people are selling their house, and a lot of people are selling their houses, and then people are buying these houses in certain parts of Columbus. I've heard there's a lot of big activity in a few select parts of the city. Can you talk a bit about that?
Well, and it goes back into where the growth is happening because of Intel. So if you look at the numbers from last year, there was a huge amount of growth out in Granville. Gahanna had a lot of growth. Powell had a lot of growth. And again, those are areas that are going to be affected by Intel and have the ability to have that type of growth. So Powell, which is in Olentangy schools, so the Olentangy School District is now the fourth largest district in the state of Ohio. So you've got, I think number one is Columbus, then you've got Cleveland City Schools, then you got Cincinnati Schools, then you have Olentangy Schools. And Olentangy Schools is going to continue to grow. I think there are about 24,000 students right now, but just because there is land out there to be developed. Granville because Granville has the ability to have growth as well because of its proximity to Intel for sure. And then Gahanna is not quite as close to Intel, but there is a nice corridor from where Gahanna is out up to the where the whole Intel plant is going to be. So we've seen a lot of people speculating in that area as well. Gahanna was actually last year the number one, I believe, from Realtor.com, the number one suburb in the country in terms of growth. So
And what is it about Gahanna that's making it so interesting or attractive to people looking to move into Columbus?
I think it's got a good mix of a pretty good school district, and I know this because my wife is from Gahanna. It's got a pretty good school district. It's still pretty affordable, and it has that proximity to Intel that I just spoke about.
So we're seeing a lot of very interesting changes in the real estate market here in Columbus. The average sale price is up, the median sale price is up, but inventory is also up. So it's almost like these prices are going up, but are people still buying? So I think there might be a little bit of confusion or uncertainty on the market. But at least based on what we've been seeing so far, if I'm a buyer or I'm a seller, what might I want to consider going into the next quarter and maybe going into the next year based on what we're seeing so far?
Well, I would definitely keep an eye on the market as we move into the winter season. The winter season's always been more of a buyer's market. So there's going to be less inventory out on the market, but there's also going to be more opportunity. Typically, you've got less buyers in the market, and there might be more of an opportunity to find something at a discount. From a selling standpoint, we always recommend to our selling clients that if your house hasn't sold come Thanksgiving, that maybe you think about taking it off the market for 6 weeks as you get through the holidays and putting it on the market in mid-January as a new listing. And January also can be a little bit of a slower month, and it kind of depends on the what's going on with the weather here in Central Ohio, which is always going to be a crapshoot. But I think that the market in general for sellers is going to be a little bit slower the next, 4 to 5 months until the economy really figures out which direction it's going. Now, they're anticipating rates to come down in the beginning of 2025. If that happens, then that will force the market to pick up. So, it's just kind of a wait and see right now. If you're thinking about buying or selling in Central Ohio, or you just need some friendly advice, please reach out. Our contact information is down below, and we're happy to answer any questions.